Going on, guys? All right, we are back in the studio this week, and we have a great guest to break in the studio. Hang tight.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for two, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
What's going on, guys? All right, welcome to episode 147 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Presented as always by goingfor2.com. We are live every Tuesday night on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. Syndicated on all major podcast networks. And of course, we're streaming in the Going for 2 app for iOS and Android. I'm here as always with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. Ryan, how you doing tonight, man?
Good. Currently being barked at, but pretty good other than that.
All right, good stuff, man. We all know your dog always wants to make an appearance there. You're probably the best fantasy expert in your family anyway.
I mean, it might be true.
Also joining us tonight, first-time guest, Miss Kacey of FightingChanceFantasy.com. You can follow her on Twitter at the Kacey Kacey, how you doing tonight?
I am doing awesome.
Good stuff.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you. I know I've been following you on Twitter for quite a while there. I've seen some of your rap marathons that you've done for Scott Fishbowl and everything. So yeah, it's good to get you on the show finally.
Thank you.
So real quick, kind of give us a little history of Kacey in the fantasy industry and what you do over at Fighting Chance Fantasy, and you got a new podcast you want to plug too.
Yeah, for sure. I started writing for Fighting Chance Fantasy a couple of years ago. Ryan, who was over there, started the whole thing. He's not there anymore. Rest in peace, Ryan. He's still there, but he's not there. But anyway, he hit me up on Twitter, asked me if I wanted to write. I said, sure thing, and got the ball rolling there. And I've been writing there. And then recently, me plus my friend JJ, we decided we would start a fantasy podcast just because we love talking about fantasy, so why not? Everybody's doing it, all the cool kids are, you guys are. So we decided to join in with all the cool kids, and so we have a podcast called Fantasy Football JK, because he's J and I'm K.
Nice. And
that'll be coming out very soon. We recorded our first episode on Monday night, and he's editing it right now. We're getting all the kinks worked out, and then it'll be out to your ears sooner than later.
Sweet. And I'm assuming you're gonna tweet it out over your account. Is it going to be like on iTunes, Spotify, and all of them, or do you know yet?
Yeah, it'll be on all of them. He said that I'm letting him do all the fun stuff.
Nice.
I just talk.
Nice.
That's all I really want to do. So I'm letting him do all that fun stuff. But yeah, you can hit me up at DKCKSOM. It's KACEY, because my parents hated me or something and they named me. And no S in my name. But yeah, we're going to have that up hopefully soon. He said that he's working on the very end of it, so it should be up.
Nice.
Nice.
Good stuff. All right, so we got a pretty jam-packed show tonight. I just want to quickly plug a few things before we get into the news and notes. So I just confirmed yesterday that we will be running our DK charity contest like we did last year. For those of y'all that played last year, it's a week one contest on DraftKings. We take donations that gets donated to the Scott Fish charity, of course, fantasycares.net. So we are going to be doing that this year. This year it won't be sponsored by DraftKings like it was last year. We're actually going to be going out and buying a championship belt to give away. So a pretty cool thing there. And then our next two shows coming up here pretty soon are two of our bigger shows of the year that we do every year. Next week's show is the Joes versus Pros show. We did a mock draft with 6 Joes and 6 Pros about 3 weeks ago. And then I'm going to have 4 guys come on, and we're going to go break that mock draft down team by team. And then also we're going to have Shane, a.k.a. Nostradamus, who's always a very popular guest of ours, comes on and he makes one prediction per team and usually ends up jinxing somebody. So we'll have him on as well here pretty soon. So just a couple programming notes, guys. Let's go ahead and get into the news and notes.
News and notes from around the league.
What was that, Ryan, before we went?
I heard the team from the 12th spot was the worst. But
yeah, okay. You probably did rank that team the worst.
I'm guessing that's you.
Yes, that was me. Ryan always has it. He always tries to figure out which team is mine, and he always guesses it because he knows my guys. So, all right. So we got a couple news and notes here. We haven't had any in a while, but there's some stuff here we can talk about. First thing is Carlos Hyde going to the Seahawks. Of course, the first question everybody asks is what's this going to do to Chris Carson's value? Kacey, we'll go to you first. What do you think of Carlos Hyde just as in general for fantasy, and then what do you think he does to Chris Carson and Rashad Penny there?
Carlos Hyde, man. I think he's he's that dude who comes in and always thinks he's going to be the dude, but he's not. So for Chris Carson, I don't think that it really affects him that much. It's more of a get your ears perked up for Rashad Penny being on the PUP. If he's on the PUP list, that's just what we're expecting. They needed somebody to come in. He decided, he would actually accept the offer that they gave him. I don't think that it affects Chris as much as it affects, Penny and now I'm rambling, so we'll just say that.
It's all good. That's what we do in this show. We just ramble.
Man, I've been drinking, guys. I've been drinking.
Hey, that's the best way to do it. Ryan, what are your thoughts on this one? Any interest in Carlos Hyde in your dynasty leagues, or are you just avoiding him at all costs?
Man, take him if he's free or super cheap. He's literally just there as protection for Rashad Penny. He had full ACL reconstruction in week 14. I'm not Ethan, who's normally on the show, but it shows on Player Profile 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
That's called an insurance plan policy right there. It's just protecting him. If Penny can't be there, they needed someone to spell Carson because he's not a 300 carry a year guy. You want him in that 175 to 220 range, and that's going to keep him fresh.
Yeah. Yep. Good point. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's just there to sort of be insurance there and probably be a camp body just to sort of be there. And I like how you put that, Kacey, that he chose to accept their offer. Like he had so many out there that were offering him stuff out there. So pretty much he had to go there.
High demand,
Exactly.
Dude, he always lands somewhere, though.
He does. He always sends somewhere.
And he always finds a way to, do just enough to make you frustrated with him.
Yes.
Just enough to keep on your roster where you can't cut him.
Yep.
And you're just stuck with him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No one will trade for him, and you don't want to cut him.
100% agree. All right, the next note we had on here actually has been added to a little bit. I put this down about a few days ago where Russell Wilson came out and said he would love to add Antonio Brown. We got news today that he's actually practicing with the Seahawks, or he's out there at the field kind of working out with them. Ryan, I'm going to go to you first because you are in Pittsburgh and you probably get the juiciest of the news there. What are your thoughts on Antonio Brown and the Seahawks?
There actually hasn't been a ton of talk about him in Pittsburgh news, which is weird for a change. But, if AB's there, he's good, but he's buried, man. There's a lot of talent in that offense. And it kind of just – I feel like they're all going to eat into each other a little bit. If you're competing with Metcalf and Lockett, while he's a much different receiver, probably get volume because he works the underneath routes. He does a lot more than those guys do. But I think it hurts everybody a little bit. But if it happens, it's good for Russ.
Yeah.
It's good for the offense. But I think it puts a little dip into especially Metcalf's value. I think Tyler Lockett gets what he gets regardless.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's going to be sort of a cut into their value more so than it is anything else. What are your thoughts, Kacey?
He's been removed from football for a while with a lot of drama following him. So,
drama's being kind.
If he went into a system like that, Russell Wilson is that good guy, right? So he's got that whole, holier than thou,
yes.
I'm a good guy. So maybe that'd be good for Antonio. I haven't really thought about Antonio Brown being on a roster. For me, it's been one of those situations where I've tried to avoid him. You can get him for really cheap.
Yep.
You can get him, super, super late. But at the same time, it's like there's only so much you can do with him the way that he has been over the last year or so. But, if he was going to go anywhere, I could see that being a fit for him just because I mean, it seems like the most, they don't have a lot of controversy behind them. They've had Marshawn Lynch, who's just a big mouth, but he's awesome. And, Antonio Brown, he's the same way. He's awesome when he's on the field. He just has to maintain some sort of calmness, if you will. Russell Wilson might be able to help him there, the team in general. But like you said, also, like you guys were talking about, that there are plenty of weapons there. So it's just, it'd be an interesting spot for him to land if he was to actually sign with the team.
Yeah, I agree with you on the landing spot being a good spot for him if he was to land somewhere, because you got, an established veteran quarterback that can handle that kind of personality. You got a strong coaching staff there, very veteran team, so he could probably fit there if anywhere. But then there's always the thing hanging over his head with the suspension, because he has all that off the field stuff that he is, dealing with. And because he hasn't been in the NFL, he hasn't been suspended. But if he does come back, there could be a suspension looming as well. So you got to take that into consideration as well. All right, a couple more things here I want to talk about. The Rams came out and said that they're basically looking at doing a running back by committee with Darrell Henderson, with Brown, and with their new running back, Cam Akers. Ryan, I'll go to you first on this one here. What are your thoughts on this report coming out of the Rams camp? Are you worried about Cam Akers at all?
No, not really. I mean, it's camp talk. You're not going to say, oh, the rookie we just drafted round 3 is our starter when you've had 2 established guys on the team. But looking at Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson, they're not like superstar running backs. Henderson's a third down back, and Malcolm Brown's just a guy. Cam Akers is a talented runner, and it may take him a week or two to get moving, but once he starts getting carries and is successful, he shows off he's a good receiver out of the backfield because he can do everything you want out of a 3-down back. He's going to take over. I could see the other guys getting maybe – I have Henderson for 90 carries and Brown for close to 70, but that still leaves a ton of carries, probably around that 200 range for Akers, which is plenty enough to give him fantasy value.
Sure.
Plus, if you add receiving in, he has a nice floor to him.
Yeah, I agree 100%. What are your thoughts, Kacey, on this Rams backfield?
Man, you look at it at first, you always hate to see those backfields that have so many guys there because there's so many what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? But Cam Akers is one of those guys who found himself in a great position. And even if he isn't, the dude day one, he's going to earn his keep. He's going to be the dude that ends up being that guy who you want to have on your fantasy roster, who you want to, root on, who you want to watch play, because those other guys are just a guy, they're guys that have been around. They've been in the league. They know how to be part of the league, but the talent that Cam Akers shows is just, above and beyond what they have to offer. And if you just give him a little bit of time to get in that offense, I think that it's going to be his show.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's that old cliche, the cream rises to the top. I think that, he may even go into preseason as the third string running back, on their quote-unquote depth chart for preseason. But when it's all said and done, I think he is the starter there. He gets all the carries. They're going to have Brown maybe spell him a little bit and have Henderson come in on passing downs a little bit. But it's going to be Cam Akers' show, in my opinion. All right, 2 more things to get to, and then we'll get into some breakout or fake out. Josh Gordon applying for reinstatement once again. Ryan, I know you're a big lover of Josh Gordon, so I want to go to you first and get your thoughts on Mr. Josh Gordon being reinstated possibly once again.
Yeah, can we just stop? I mean, he's a decent talent, or was, but he's, 28 now? And we've been talking about this since 2013. We had 1,600 yards, and since then, 720 is the most in the season.
Yeah.
He's nothing more than a wide receiver 3, if you're lucky right now. I'm over it. Other people can buy him. If you have him, on a team or you pick him up for agency, fine. And as soon as he signs on the team, sell him to a sucker. Now.
Yep. What are your thoughts on Gordon?
I'm real bitter about it. I'm sorry.
What's your thoughts on Gordon, Kacey?
My thoughts on Gordon. God, there's so many. A couple of years ago, you could I don't know what I would offer or what I would want somebody to offer me to get Gordon off of my hands. Like, I didn't want a piece of him just because of how many times he's been given an opportunity to be the dude. He's got the talent. He just doesn't have the smarts. He's like my puppy, you know, like he's quick, he's fast, he can jump, he can catch, he can do all that stuff. But when it comes to common sense, there's not any.
Not there.
And, you know, now that if he gets reinstated, I saw somebody be like, I'll give you my 5th round draft pick in this upcoming draft for Josh Gordon. And they were like, okay, cool. It's one of those situations where it's like, okay, he may help your fantasy team once or twice.
Yep.
He's not going to help you on a weekly basis. And you really do have to worry about him just because, I mean, a lot of guys you have to worry about, like they always say, you're going to have to worry about Zeke, or you're going to have to worry about Mixon or this, that, and the other. But this is a guy you really have to worry about because he's got the track record, like not just once, but multiple times. So for him, I'm staying away from him, but like I want to see him succeed. Like the stuff that's causing him to not succeed is stuff that I don't consider to be horrible, or, you know, you're not beating your wife or, you know, any of that kind of robbing somebody for their watches. But, you know, but at the same time, you know, you have to, rules are rules, and to be in this league, you have to abide by what they tell you to do. Yep.
That's a good point. I think, if I'm not mistaken, so my thoughts on Josh Gordon are going to go kind of beyond fantasy a little bit. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Seahawks still have him under contract. So if he came back, he would be playing for the Seahawks. So as a Niners fan,
him and Antonio.
Yeah, as a Niners fan, I want to see Josh Gordon and Antonio Brown go to Seattle and just watch it blow up. That's what I want to see.
Isn't that your dream? Like they could just stay like they're supposed to.
Yes, that would be awesome. All right, the last note that I have on here, I added right before the show. I just looked at my my app before I logged in here and saw this note, and this is going to be kind of big news if you drafted A.J. Dillon just recently in your rookie drafts. But Aaron Jones and the Packers are talking long-term contract. I know we talked a lot about this, Ryan, earlier about Jones possibly not being there next year and Dillon getting the full role. If you are a Dillon owner or if you're a Jones owner, what are you doing with this news if they get a long-term contract worked out with Jones?
I'm trying to sell Jones high, if that's the case. Like, Jones is very talented, but they're not the type of team who's committed to one guy, and they've shown that over and over again when he was absolutely fantastic last year. He's somebody I'd try to move if he's staying there, but it looks really good on paper. I like Dillon. I like what they have in the offense, but they're not a team I trust.
Yeah.
And I also don't trust any running back long-term contract talks, because how many times do they just want so much money because they're so beat up, and we've seen star running backs hold out 2-3 years in a row now.
Yep. Good point. What are your thoughts, Kacey, on Aaron Jones?
Man, I am so tired of these running backs getting these contracts that are crazy. I don't know. In Green Bay, it's never been a thing where one guy has been the guy. It's like, it seems like every other year there's a new guy that's the guy in Green Bay. I really don't want anything to do with anybody there unless I can get them at a decent value. Like, I'm in a auction draft right now for best ball. Best ball's a whole different ball game. It's dynasty, but it's still a whole different ball game.
Yep.
But I'm not going to overspend for these guys. And the fact of the matter is that guy, we've seen him there, that guy, quote unquote, in Green Bay over and over again. You got, Ty Montgomery over and over again. These guys that look like they're going to be the number one, the guy that's there for a while, and they don't have long-term guys there. It's just not a way of life for Green Bay. And for me, if he's talking about being there long-term, I'm a Cowboys fan, so seeing the contract that Zeke got, I was like, no way, this is breaking my heart. And if I was a Green Bay Packers fan, it'd be the same way. If he was to get a decent contract there, what's the point? We all know that running backs seem to be replaceable in this league. So I'm not going to sweat too much over that. I'll pay decent amount for him, but I'm not going to overpay for him if I'm looking at it from a fantasy standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at those running backs, you're talking about big contracts. We saw what happened to Todd Gurley, got his big contract, and now he's, cut, and he's playing for Atlanta. We had, there's another one I was just thinking of that I just lost my train of thought. Oh, David Johnson. We saw what he did with Arizona, got his big contract, and then it wasn't anything after that. So it's a risky business getting those contracts with those running backs there. So I'd be a little bit worried myself. So yeah, and as far as what Dylan goes, I'm still, if I drafted Dylan, I'm still holding on to him. There's still a chance that this, long-term thing doesn't get worked out and Jones moves on to somewhere else that'll pay him. Maybe the Jets will pay him again. They'll get rid of Le'Veon Bell, and then they'll pay Aaron Jones a lot of money. Who knows? But yeah, I think
a buy window for Dylan.
That's a good. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. It's a buy window, I think, in my opinion.
Definitely. All right, so I promised at the top of the show we're going to do some breakout or fake out. So let's get into that.
Breakout or fake out?
All right, so I asked each one of y'all to bring a couple breakouts and a couple fake outs to the show. Ryan, we'll go to you first. Give me a breakout first. Let's do breakouts. Give me one of your breakouts, Ryan.
All right. I'm going a little bit bold to start. I'm saying Dante Pettis.
Oh.
And I know because he has been the most shunned person in fantasy I've seen in a long time. That said, he's got injured week 1 last year and sprained his groin, and he played through it. And then week 13, sprained his knee, and then the next week his back, then his knee, weeks 11 and 13. So he was beat up all year. If you go back to go back to 2018's rookie season, he ranked 5th in yards per reception at 17.3. He ranked 9th in yards per target at 10.9, and he ranked 1st in target separation at 2.38 in the NFL. Like, he was absolutely balling and doing all the metrics you look at where he's doing stuff away from the ball without the ball coming to him, and he was showing out. And I don't understand why, if he's healthy, we can't see that again. And he's a guy you can get for free and could pay big dividends. Even if he becomes a wide receiver 3 at the value he's at now, that's huge. It's somebody you can start.
Yeah.
And I'm all in for buying him at that. I know there's nothing flashy about the pick, but he has a lot of upside. He's a talented guy coming up. They moved up. They took him high in the draft. He performed well in college. Everything's there. It's just one bad year where he was beaten up. We're looking at a guy who everybody kind of forgot about.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's funny because you say you can get him for free, and you literally can, because in my Dynasty League, I owned Pettis, and when this recent rookie draft, I added some rookie receivers there, and I dropped Pettis, and he is still sitting on waivers right now, just chilling. No one wants to add him. I actually, as a Niners fan, I was hoping he would get cut. There was the rumors of, the trade with the Eagles before they got Marquise Goodwin, that they're going to trade Pettis to the Eagles. I would have loved that trade. Or if he got cut and picked up by somebody else, I would have been happy with that as well. But staying there at the Niners with that receiving core that they have, it's going to be tough for him to carve a rollout. But I would definitely love to see it, because I was a big Pettis supporter last year, and he burned me quite a bit. But I like that. I like that one a lot. All right, Kacey, what you got for your first breakout?
Okay, my first breakout. Now, most people aren't like, tight ends are going to break out. Tight ends are all the same, right? But in my opinion, I think that, Noah Fant showed us enough last year that he could break out this year, like to a point where it's not going to be like, is he going to be like a tight end 1 every now and then? I think he has more of a shot of being a tight end 1 on a weekly basis than he did last year. He was good last year. He showed what he could do last year. It's not like he was, horrible and some guy that we've never heard of. He was good last year, but I think he can be great this year. Out of all the rookies that came into the league last year, he was the one who showed up. He had to deal with quarterback play that wasn't great. He had Joe Flacco there. He had Brandon Allen there. He had things that were not the ideal situation to be placed in when you're drafted. Here's where you're going to go. You're going to go hang out with Joe Flacco, who hasn't won he's elite, right? Everybody says, let's laugh about that. He's not really elite. But then you get Drew Lock in there. And, some people have high hopes for Drew Lock, and some people are like, whatever, they're going to replace him and whatever. But he showed enough that, like, it's going to benefit Noah Fant. I think, he can actually do work there. He showed that, okay, so since I saw, because I don't actually know this off the top of my head, but he was the 12th rookie since 2000 to surpass 500 receiving yards. So, I mean, that's gotta be something. And when tight ends show up in year 2, year 3, he can only go forward. And yes, there's a lot of weapons there. They drafted some wide receivers, and you already have Cortland Sutton there. But he's a big-bodied, athletic guy who I think is going to be worth. I mean, tight end is so loony that I think that he's worth at least taking a chance on, because what are you going to do? Are you going to draft Blake Jarwin or, like Mike Gesicki and wonder if it's going to be the same thing?
Right.
So why not go with a guy that at least got some catches last year and at least looked decent with the young guy that they have there?
Yeah, it's funny because every year in rookie drafts, everyone's like, tight ends take so long to develop, and if you draft this tight end, you got to wait on him, this and that. And then every year, those second-year tight ends get hated on. Like, he didn't do nothing last year. He was terrible. It's like, we just told you they take, 2-3 years to break out. Like, be patient with these guys. He's an athletic freak. We saw what he can do last year. He had, I think, one play that went, like, for 60, 70 yards. He's definitely, in an offense that's on its way up. And you got, Judy there. You got Sutton. Drew Lock's a young guy. It's going to be a good offense if they can put it all together. So, yeah, I agree. I think Fant is definitely a really good one there. All right, Ryan, let's swing it back to you and give me one of your fake out players.
Crap, I had a breakout up. My bad. I've gone with Kirk Cousins.
Yes, I like that.
I got a lot of crap for Kirk Cousins. I posted my top quarterbacks last week, which had a lot of complaints. But Kirk Cousins not being on there really, really surprised me. And I don't get it. He's an average quarterback. He's basically a safety valve quarterback. He's a dump-off guy. He's not doing anything special. His yards per attempts average at best, and he just lost his most explosive receiver. I love Justin Jefferson. He was my top 3 receivers this year. But we're going on an offense that's 100% built to run this year. They're going to pound the rock with Dalvin, Alexander Madison, and they have 2.5 receiving threats with Jefferson, Thielen, and whatever they're trying to put together at tight end, because Rudolph's getting over the hill, and Irv Smith's still a young tight end, is not there yet. But people are looking at Cousins like he could be a top 12 quarterback. He's a great floor play, but if you're looking for upside, it's not going to be him. He's not going to be winning you games. He should be a late round quarterback who we're taking a la high end Alex Smith. I'm off of him, and he's going way too high for what we're looking at.
I agree. I think he's the if you take a high upside quarterback in Superflex, he's the safe guy you match that high upside guy with, just in case, like a guy like Drew Lock, for example. If you take Drew Lock in Superflex, you get Kirk Cousins just in case Lock doesn't pan out, and you have that safe quarterback there to kind of fill in for your bye weeks. All right, Kacey, what do you got for your breakout?
Another breakout. Breakout. Preston Williams. I like Preston Williams with the Dolphins. The wide receiver there, Devontae Parker was one of those guys that took him like a million years to break out.
Yeah.
I've been on the Devontae Parker train since day one. And, I don't want to be that person that brags about him finally breaking out, because I missed years and years and years and years ago. But for Preston Williams, he got hurt. So he got a knee injury, his ACL. But he's still a big red zone target. They don't have a lot of guys there that are, worth anything when it comes to getting you the points that you need in fantasy. And I also think that, he's going to be drafted so low. You can get him for so dirt cheap. People just don't think about him. if he's healthy, he's a steal. Obviously, if he's hurt, he's not going to be worth anything to you. But the fact of the matter is, he should be healthy, and I think that he's one of those guys that you should at least try to take a flyer on. Even if he's on your bench and you put him in for your bye leagues, that's a guy that's great at coming in and just getting you a decent amount of fantasy points.
Yeah, I like that call. That's a good one. And Ryan, real quick, we had a question on YouTube from Kyle. He wanted to know, I don't know if you've got your projections pulled up there, but on Kirk Cousins, he wants to know what you got his pass attempts sort of marked at. He's got him around 500 pass attempts this year because of the defense.
Let me get to it. I'll come back.
Well, here, I'll go ahead and I'll go back to Kacey and get her to do a fake out, and then I'll come to you. You can give me your Kirk Cousins.
A fake out? I can give you a fake out. Let me see what I have. I have a lot of fake outs written down. Let me see what I can find. That's not a fake out. Nope. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and give you a fake out player. I'm going to go ahead and give you, let's go with, I'm going to give you Zak Hertz. And I know everybody is on Zak Hertz, and everybody loves Zak Hertz. And I get it. Zak Hertz is very talented. He really is. But last season, a lot of the stuff that helped him out was injuries to the other wide receivers that were there in the offense that he plays in. If you look at the players that got hurt who are very talented, and then you look at Zak Ertz, if they were there, they're going to take away from his targets.
Yep.
You've got Dallas Goedert there, who I think is a very great talent. In fact, the Dallas Cowboys got faked out on that. But yes, I don't think he's for where he's being drafted. I don't think he is going to give you the return that you want if those guys stay healthy. Now, Jackson and Jackson's been injured. You can't really rely on him. So yes, if all the guys there are injured, if Alshon Jeffrey's injured, if Jackson's injured, then it gives him a little bit more of a cushion for your fantasy team. But other than that, it really stinks when you have a two tight end roster there, when you have two tight ends in at the same time, when you have somebody as talented as Dallas Goedert, who has shown that he's a top talent as well. I like Zak Ertz. I really wish that he would get traded or sent to another team or whatever happens. Magic, you close your eyes and boom, he's on another team. It's not the ideal situation for him, but I think that he's kind of a fake out this year because if those guys stay healthy, they drafted a wide receiver. They've got plenty of talent there. It's just a matter of staying healthy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I hope you're right because I actually owned Zak Ertz in my Dynasty League, and I owned Dallas Goedert. So I traded away Zak Ertz, the older guy, hoping that Dallas Goedert kind of takes over that role there. And you're right, because last year was frustrating, because last year I had both of them, and each week you're like, okay, is this the Zak Ertz week, or is this the Dallas Goedert week? And it always seemed I made the wrong decision. I made it to the championship game, and I started Zak Ertz. Zak Ertz got me 1 point. I think Goddard had me 26 points on my bench, and it killed me. So I lost my championship game because of that. So very frustrating to have two tight ends.
Tight end by committee right there.
Yes, yeah, it's not a good thing to do. All right, Ryan, we'll get your Kirk Cousins thing there, and then if you can give us your next, we'll give you a breakout to do.
Cool. So I have actually more attempts than last year. I have 475 attempts. 8.3 yards in attempts, so ends up being 39, 42 yards, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He gives you no rushing upside, too, which I didn't mention with it. So it puts him in QB 20 for me.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's pretty low. And it's funny that he gives you no rushing upside because when he's with the Washington Redskins when I was here, not that he ran a lot, but he ran a lot more than he has when he's got to Minnesota. It seems like he doesn't want to take off as often up there. I don't know if it's because he's trying to protect himself or what it is, or the coaches say don't run. But up here when he was here in Washington, he did take off a little bit. I don't have his stats in front of me, but I remember him doing a couple. I think he had a few touchdowns one year rushing the ball. Actually,
he had 63 yards last year and one touchdown. And if we're looking.
Go back to his Redskins years and see. I seem to recall him getting a few rushing touchdowns that last year that he was here in Washington.
Yeah, he had 1 year 179 rushing is his most in his career. before that 96, 48, 20, 14, and 22.
Oh,
But he
yeah.
had the 1 year he had 48 rushing yards. He had 5 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, that's the year I'm thinking of, the 5 touchdowns, because I do remember him getting quite
so
a bit
Washington,
of those.
he went 5-4-4 for touchdown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Off of like no rushing yards.
Off no rushing.
Essentially, they just ran him up close.
Yep.
Out
Yep.
of what they did to break RG3.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, go ahead and give us your fake out player. Actually, did I say fake out or breakout? Which one you want to do?
We're on break. I'll do breakout. I
All
have
right.
that in front of me. And we got Hayden Hurst. We're like going heavy tight end tonight, which is very
Yes.
weird for the show because I'm always anti tight end. But I love it. I love Hayden Hurst. I mean, I've watched a lot of him because he's in Baltimore, and he flashed when he was on the field. And he had the chances but he was buried behind Mark Andrews, who's my dude. But if you look at him compared to Austin Hooper, they're about the same size. He's an inch taller, 5 pounds less, so 6'5", 250. He ran a faster 40 at 4.67. He had a higher speed score, burst score. But when you get down at his yards per reception, Hurst was 14th in the league. Hooper's 22nd. Yards per target, Hurst was 7th. Hooper was 13th. Yards per route run, Hurst was 6th, and Hooper was 10th. So they're very, very close on everything, and they have very similar games. Atlanta's offense used the tight end a lot last year, and outside that, they have 2 receivers in Gurley. So there's a ton of room for him to get volume. There's a ton of room for him in the red zone because Julio's going to get doubled in there, which is going to give him a lot of room to score. And he's a guy who should get into the top 10. I'm not fully sure how high I'm going to have him yet, but he's a guy who has everything in place to succeed in that offense, and he has a skill set. But surprisingly, he's older than Hurst, he's older than Hooper. He's only been in the league a couple years.
Yeah, guys, just so y'all know too, I want to fans of the show that are on here. They, usually I give the show notes like the night before the show, and Ryan comes to the show. We just kind of does it off of memory. I gave him the show notes, I believe, on Saturday, so he's had 3 days to do it. I told him he's got plenty of homework. So look what he does. He comes to the show with all kinds of stats and all kinds of stuff he's throwing at us. So I think from now on, I need to get him the show notes a little bit early so he knows what he's looking for. So good stuff, Ryan.
Yeah,
right.
I normally just work in chaos and memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, we'll go around one more time. What was that, Kacey?
I just say, if I don't get things ahead of time, I end up not sounding like I know anything. I gotta do a little bit of research.
Right. You gotta get
a little bit of homework.
Definitely. All right, we'll go around one more time, and you can pick either breakout or fake out, and then we'll take a quick commercial break. So, Kacey, we'll go to you first.
Well, I have a nice assortment of players to choose from. Who do I want to choose from? I'm going to go with a fake out player. Sure. We're going to go with Aaron Jones.
He was on my fake out list.
Yes, thank
Nice.
you. Okay. The running back from Green Bay, and I feel bad because I'm in an auction draft right now, and I have him bid up pretty high. I'm hoping somebody will outbid me for him just because I don't want him, but I didn't want him to go for
cheap.
Nothing.
Right.
I wanted to at least have some sort of justification for taking him. I mean, he was awesome last year. I don't want to be like, oh no, he wasn't great. It's the same thing as Derrick Henry, where you're like, it's one of those situations where you don't know, you just don't know. But they got AJ Dillon there, and I like AJ Dillon too. I also bid him out, so I'm in a situation right now. Let's just say in that draft, he had one of those years last year that was just, what the heck is that? You just don't. It doesn't seem like a type of year that will repeat itself.
Yep.
It's especially in that offense. It's Green Bay. They don't do that 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
It just is not a thing that they do. They want a running back by committee there. They don't want a guy, right? And yes, he wants. They're in talks to get him a contract there where he'll be comfortable and yay, everything's great for, him. But is it going to be great for him? We don't know. He played 60% of the snaps last year. I don't see him being able to live up to the expectation, and I don't see him being the guy that you want to draft at the ADP that he's going at. He's going way too high. There's just no way. There's no way. I don't own him anywhere, and maybe I will in this in
by
this
accident
auction draft because I didn't want him to go for super cheap. But no, he's going way too high, and that's what happens every year with these guys who break out. But Green Bay is a special kind of team, and when it comes to running back there, you never know.
I thought you were going to call them a special kind of stupid. I was just going to lose it.
He's also no. I think he's good. He's whatever he is. He is whatever he is. But I don't think that you're going to sit there and be like, rah, rah, he's the top 3 guy. Blah. Yes,
right.
He had such an amazing year last year, but that was 1 year.
Yep.
When it comes to Green Bay, if you look at other teams, sure. If he was playing for a different team, maybe you could be like, okay, he'll repeat that. But it's Green Bay. They do not do that with the running backs. It's never been a thing for as long as I can remember. He's not going to. He's just not. His ADP is too high. It's and even though Williams got hurt, he's still there, and they drafted, and AJ Dillon's there, and.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't with him.
I agree 100%. I think he's, you look at his end-of-year stats, and you don't look at the actual stats, just look at the end-of-the-year fantasy number. You're like, man, this guy had a monster year, but I think he had 19 or 20 touchdowns on, not very many touches, which is just not very repeatable. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he was, up there with Christian McCaffrey there for a little while. And
Lots
McCaffrey
of guys had more touches than he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Touchdowns aren't something to chase, man.
Yeah, definitely not. You don't want to chase touchdowns in fantasy. I agree.
Touchdowns. That was the reason why he was so good with the touchdowns, and it's not going to repeat itself this year. It's just not.
Agreed.
Especially with Aaron Rodgers coming in and being like, "Yo."
Yeah. Yep. I had to prove myself now. They just drafted me a quarterback that's going to back me up.
I can't do that to me. I'm not going to do this. He had 19 touchdowns, and
it's just too much.
You can't do that again. That's not even. That's like a fluke in Madden. There's no way.
Yep, agreed.
Just calm down.
And I just want to say something too really quick, Kacey. People that are watching on video can see it, but if they're listening to this on audio, they can't. I love how you're old school. You got papers all over the place with notes jotted down, and I like that.
Dude, I have so much you don't even know.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And that's not for just you guys. I'm like, if I take notes on paper, I can write articles. So I'm gonna do that.
There you go. That's awesome. I love it.
I love it.
Love it.
I'll be working and then listening to podcasts, and I'll be
just writing
taking
stuff
notes
down.
while I'm working.
Nice.
I love it.
I used to use all Post-it notes. When I first started the podcast, it was pure chaos. So
my wife's like, "Can we throw this shit away?" And I'm sorry, but can we throw this stuff away? And I'm like, I don't know, I might need it.
Kyle on YouTube just said it helps with the whole freestyle setup that you got going on there. With you got Biggie in the background, you got your little notepad, you're writing your rhymes down. It kind of fits the whole mantra there.
Write the rhymes. I love to freestyle. I love to rap right off the straight of the dome.
Nice. All right, Ryan, give us either a fake out or a breakout, and then we'll take a quick commercial break.
I was going to go fake out, but the way you just dropped the Leonard Jones just put me in good mood, so I'm going to go breakout. I'm going Gardner Minshew. I have him just outside of my top 12. He averaged 15.9 points per game last year when he was looking over his back for his starting job. He was in an offense that was kind of in shambles, rotating running backs, rotating different receivers because everybody broke.
Yep. And
DJ Shark was his only guy who he really trusted. This year, they went all in, man. They didn't pick up a guy for him to compete with. The job's his. He knows this going into camp, so he's working with the starters. He's got DJ Shark coming back who balled for him last year. Surprised me. Chenault they picked up. D.D. Westbrook is healthy as of now. Who knows how long that's going to last. But if he's in, he's a good slot receiver. And he won't be getting volume, so he's not as beat up. Keelan Cole's a solid receiver. And then, again, if healthy, Tyler Eifert's a nice little piece for them. But to go with that, their defense is trash.
Yep.
I mean, good luck naming guys on their defense. It's absolutely atrocious this year. And they're in a division with people who can score a lot of points, which means he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. I mean, there's not going to be games under 30 attempts this year, and I'm all in on a guy who has to throw it. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's efficient, but he's going to have to do it. We could see the Jameis effect out of it is a worst-case scenario, and that's fantasy gold.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm all in on Gardner there, and he's another guy who's cheap.
Yeah.
Like, you can get him for nothing now.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, guys, quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to do some veteran players, and then we're going to do some of our quote-unquote my guys, so hang tight.
In the unpredictable world of fantasy sports, when all hope seems lost, and chaos and confusion rule, one hero will rise. And change everything. Goingfor2.com. Because no one remembers the extra point.
All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Ryan and Kacey, and we are getting ready to talk some of the veteran players that I'm calling this segment Still Got It. I don't have a fancy little drop for this segment yet, so I'll get one before the end of the season. But let's go to Still Got It, and we'll start with you, Kacey, real quick. Give me a veteran player that the Dynasty community is kind of down on or overlooking that you are trying to buy at a low price right now because you think he still got it.
Yes, this guy still has it. Not as the number one guy that he used to be, but he's with the New Orleans Saints now. I'm going to go with Emmanuel Sanders.
Nice.
That's my dude. I'm not looking. A lot of people are like, why would you draft Emmanuel Sanders? Dude, you're not drafting guys all at number one value. You've got to get guys on your bench that can either fill in or take over when injuries happen,
Yep.
bye weeks. I mean, watch and see what happens when he's there with Drew Brees. He was a guy last year that had to deal with multiple quarterbacks. He had to deal with multiple schemes. He had to deal with multiple everything. And he still came out. At 33 years old this year, he's still going to produce for you because Drew Brees will be healthy at least to start the season. And when Drew Brees is healthy, he makes players like Willie Snead fantasy relevant. You're gonna want somebody like that on your team that can be a guy that can fill in, like I said, for all those places. He's gonna be on your bench, okay. But in drafts, in dynasty drafts, for instance, you're not gonna either draft him at all or you're gonna get him for super cheap. Nobody's gonna want to spend the draft capital on him that he probably deserves to have put on him. He's not going to be Michael Thomas. We don't expect him to be Michael Thomas. If you did, then you shouldn't be playing fantasy football.
Exactly.
But everybody's always so hard on these guys, and they don't realize, guess what? You're going to have to fill out your bench. And he's probably the number one guy that I would want to fill out my bench. If I had to pick somebody, that would be the guy that I would want to be on my bench.
Yeah, I love that call. Actually, you can't see it right now, but once this gets posted onto YouTube, the cover thumbnail is actually Emmanuel Sanders is on the thumbnail. So I kind of figured you might bring him up. I saw your article pinned to the top of your Twitter.
I did.
So I was like, all right, let me get Sanders in there. So that's a great one. Not just to mention that he had a good year last year, but coming off of an Achilles tear, which is just crazy to me at his age to do what he did last year. And then change teams in the middle of the season and then not miss a beat. I mean, him and Jimmy G were on the same page from day one, it seemed.
He's like Adrian Peterson of the freaking wide receiver.
Agreed. All right, Ryan, let's go to you. Give us one of your veteran players that still got it.
I'm sorry, I just deleted Emmanuel Sanders off my list. So, my wide receiver, coming off a few concussions, but he's only 26 years old. He has now notched in 5 seasons over 1,000 yards.
I know who this is.
Oh, do you?
I think so. Because he's got traded to a new team.
Yes. Yeah, it's Brandon Cooks. So there's a lot of myths when it comes to Brandon Cooks. First of all, that he's injury prone, but through 2015 through 2018, he didn't miss any games.
Really?
Last year, he missed 2 games. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
He's knocked out a few. He's had a few at the start, but he's played in 16 games every year in those seasons. He's averaged 2015 averaged 13.5 yards per reception, which was the lowest out of that stretch. All the others over 15 until last year when that offense is kind of in shambles, and it looked really bad on a lot of levels, mainly because of their run game. And if you look at Houston, they're one of the teams who leads in air yards. Deshaun Watson loves to throw it up. He's missing his number one receiver. They're a team that's built to play vertical football, and they're a team that's built to throw a lot. And if he's healthy, which, I mean, it's football. People get hurt. There's a good chance at his size he could, but he's really played a lot and played through a lot. And nobody respects him as a player, and he's a guy who can win you a week by himself.
Yep.
He's volatile as hell, but you need guys like that on your fantasy team. If you have Emmanuel Sanders, you're on a bye week, and you have Emmanuel Sanders starting, who's going to get you your 10 points, and you need a huge week to win, you take the chance on a guy like Brandon Cooks, who can blow up for you. And he's a guy who's following everywhere because everyone thinks he can broke. I saw him trade for a 4th-round pick.
Wow.
And I almost threw up because I didn't even make an offer because I thought the person would want too much for him. And I was willing to offer more than that. And, that's the kind of value he's going for now. Go get him.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. People and that's funny, that stat you gave with him, only missing 2 games for 2018. I mean, you hear people talk about his concussions and injuries, and it's really not real. It's not even. He missed a few games here and there, but nothing to write home about. So that's a pretty interesting stat there. I like that. Good stuff.
114 targets was his lowest in that 5-year stretch.
Wow, that's pretty good. And like you said, there's no more. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be there, so it's going to be him, and who else is still there? Kenny Stills is still there, and QT is still there, and.
I don't want to talk about QT.
I love him so much. I wish that actually worked out.
I do too. I don't want to talk about it. It makes me sad.
Ryan's a little bitter. All right, let's do one more veteran that's still got it, Kacey. Give me one more guy that you got there that's a veteran guy that's kind of going low right now.
It's going to be a guy that's gone really, really low or not at all. And his name is Cole Beasley. Now, when it was the Cowboys, I was like, guys, you should draft Cole Beasley. He's not going to be. That's the problem, is that a lot of people have this mindset that these guys have to be the number one guy, the guy overall. No. Cole Beasley is not going to be that guy, and he's never been that guy. I wrote an article about him a few years ago when with the Cowboys, and I was like, if Dak Prescott can actually get him the ball, then he's going to be amazing. And he was. He was. He's 31, so not ideal. He's on that cliff that you really don't want to deal with. But if you're drafting a guy in the later rounds, or if you're looking for a guy to have as a throw-in piece, he's the guy that you kind of want. He played last year. He had 10 games where he was in double digits. He outscored a lot of guys that you would assume are the guys that would have those double-digit games every single game. And he's going to be that guy who can get you those fantasy points on bye weeks, injuries. Again, I'm really into those guys who are good fill-ins. Mm-hmm. You're not going to use him every single game. But he is, if you're going to look at a guy that's either Cole Beasley or some guy you're not even sure of, Cole Beasley at least gives you the stats where you're going to get some points off of him. Yep. You're not going to get nothing off him. He's never going to put up a 0 for you.
Yep.
And you're writing him off because he's Cole Beasley. You wrote him off when he was in Dallas, even though he was borderline wide receiver 1 in Dallas for a little bit of his career.
Yep.
He's been there for a while. Sure, he's been there for 8 years. This is his 8th year. But I would still think that a late round or pickup of Cole Beasley is worth your time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I actually just pulled up his numbers from last year, and would you believe that last year was his career high in targets? So he's not going away. I mean, he had 106 targets last year. That's a pretty good number there for any receiver, and for your second guy in the field, you're getting him super cheap. I would definitely be buying some Cole Beasley. So that's a great pick there. All right, Ryan, give us one more veteran player, and then we'll get to a few of our my guys.
I had a couple written down, and I didn't want to go the same team, but I'm doing it anyways. That's David Johnson. He's a player who has potential to be a league winner for you if he stays healthy. If you look at Houston last year, they ran the ball 434 times, so they ran the ball a lot. And Carlos Hyde, who can we all agree that David Johnson's a better runner than Carlos Hyde?
Yep.
Yes.
He was 12th in the league in rushing last year.
That's crazy.
And he was 12th. And he performed well in fantasy. And David Johnson can do that, but better. And he is a phenomenal pass catcher. In that offense, where it's spread out like that, he's going to have huge lanes to run through. He's going to get dump-offs underneath. If he stays on the field coming off an arm injury, we're not talking about a knee injury or a hip or anything like that. We're just talking an arm injury that took him a little bit while to get back and healthy from and get in the groove of that offense. He could have a huge year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 29. He's not a long-term hold, but he's a guy who you can get as a veteran for a discount who has potential to give you an RB1 season. I'm not saying he's going to be there, but he could be close.
Yeah.
And if he's on the field 16 games, he has the potential, he has the talent, and he's in the kind of offense built for running.
Yeah, and another thing, too, is he probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, too, because, I mean, he got traded away, and then, of course, the whole narrative is that, it's this huge contract, and Dave Johnson's terrible, or they trade for DeAndre Hopkins. So it's kind of like, dude, I'm still a pretty good running back here. Let me show myself what I can do this year. So that's a good call there. I like that one a lot.
I like it a lot.
All right, let's do a couple my guys. These are guys that if you could own them pretty much in any league, you would definitely try to own them. We'll do one of each, and then we'll get to the forgotten fantasy player. So, Kacey, give me your top quote unquote my guy.
Okay, if you're in a league with me, it's probably not surprising that Austin Ekeler is my guy. He's the top dog in that backfield. He's my guy. I know there's a lot of question marks. I know there's a lot of, Philip Rivers in there this year, and so on and so forth. But Austin Ekeler is still going to be my guy. I think I'm overpaying for him in that league I was talking to you guys about earlier, where it's a auction league. I can't let him go for the price that he's going for. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is there. I think that he's still going to be fantasy relevant. I still think that in the years to come, he's still going to. Even as a, he didn't get drafted, but he's one of those guys that I love his grit. I love the fact that, I wasn't drafted, but I'm still going to come out here and show you that I can get you what you need to win in your league. And, I mean, the extension that he got during, he got a 4-year extension, $24.5 million with $15 million guaranteed. Like, he's got the potential to be something. They just have to use him the correct way. And when Philip Rivers was there, yes, they used him correctly because Philip Rivers didn't have an arm, and he wanted a guy that he could rely on. And obviously, if a guy is going to continue to do things that he does, that's the guy you can rely on. In PPR leagues, if I had to draft a running back in PPR leagues, that's the guy I'm going to draft. That's just the guy in PPR leagues. Now, if I'm in a regular standard league, I don't know why I'm in a regular standard league, but also, if I think I might still take him just because I like him so much. I just want to see that success story there, and I don't know. There's just something about him that just my heart just calls to him.
I love that call. That's a good one there. And going to your standard league, PPR league, I've been on my soapbox many times before on Twitter. It should no longer be called standard. Should be called Classic. It's not the standard anymore. PPR is the
Ooh, I like
standard.
that.
We need to change it to Classic. I don't know why. And if you play in those
One
leagues,
QB leagues too.
what was that?
One QB leagues too. The one no super flex.
Yeah,
just
that's
standard.
true. Superflex is taking over, especially if you're on
Tight
Twitter.
end premium.
Facebook is a little bit behind on the game with the Superflex, but I know like on Twitter that's all
That's
of
when
that's
you can play 2 quarterbacks, guys.
yeah. Yeah, we gotta tell the
that's
Facebook group
leagues
that.
where the whole leagues are just now turning to PPR. They're like, oh, have PPR.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, give me one of your my guys.
That's Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
It's a homer pick.
Homer
But-
pick.
Yeah.
It is, but you know what, man? I own him probably more than anybody right now, and it makes sense. So he came into last season with the Lynn Frank injury after he got drafted, so he didn't participate in any camp really. He played very well weeks 1 through 4. Week 5 against Pittsburgh, he sprained his ankle. He's on the injury report for the next 7 weeks. This year, he's healthy. He was finally healthy actually last year for the playoff game. I got ahead of myself there. And he got targeted 11 times, had 126 yards. And this offseason, him and Lamar have been in South Florida practicing for about a month now, being they had no practice with each other last year because he was hurt. And they've been inseparable since then. He's a guy, he has a ton of skill. He was a first-round pick. He's the first receiver drafted in that class. And if he's clicking with his quarterback, he's going to get volume, and he doesn't even need that much volume. He could be a 7 to 10 target guy and put up a ton of fantasy points.
Yeah.
I have him just around my low end, our wide receiver 2 range, and there's so much upside there. It may not be consistent week to week, but he's going to have some huge weeks that win you. He's going to be a guy you can't bench because of the potential on a week-to-week basis of just blowing up. And he's going to be number 2 on that team in targets, if not coming close to what Mark Andrews is, because the talent's there, the speed's there. He had 7 touchdowns last year, and he's a little receiver. If he can get the yards to go with that, look out.
Yep. I like that call a lot.
pick.
Like that. Yeah, I was going to quote Willie Snead there. Willie Snead said that Hollywood Brown and Lamar Jackson are the next Joe Montana and Jerry Rice. I don't know about that, but
They should have traded Willie Snead.
yeah, I think
Willie
there's a suspension
Snead,
looming. Yeah, suspension looming for Willie Snead because that comment is a little bit over bounds.
I mean, that would get my boy Duvernay in there, so I'm cool with it. But that's a whole different conversation.
All right, let's get to the favorite segment of the night.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
All right, Kacey, you're a first-time guest. Your Forgotten Fantasy Player. You got to come strong because we've had some really good ones this past couple of weeks. So who you got for your Forgotten Fantasy Player?
Yes. Okay, so I listened to a lot of your podcasts, and I tried to pick somebody that you guys haven't already had. But I don't know if this person has been picked or not, but I'm going to go with Justin Forsett.
Nice.
No?
That's a good one.
Listen, when Ray Rice had his whole shenanigans, if you want to call it that, I'd like to call it domestic abuse, when he had all that go down, and that year, my boy Justin Forsett actually ended up being pretty dang awesome.
Yeah.
When it came to fantasy football, that was 2014, I think. There was no backup that they decided to choose to come in to take over because they didn't know that had actually happened with Ray Rice. And so Justin Forsett, the Ravens are notoriously known for having these guys that come in and put up great numbers for a year and then disappear. And Justin Forsett is somebody that I drafted probably my second or third year of playing fantasy football. I was like, you know what, I'm all in on this guy. And it actually helped me out because he had more than 1,000 yards rushing, and he was actually 5th in the total yards. He had 1,266 yards that season. He was 10th in yards from scrimmage. He put up multiple games where he was in double digits. He looked like the guy that was going to go be the future of the Ravens. Of course, we know that that's not true. I think that have happened. He wouldn't have been the guy that would have got you fantasy points. So getting him off of waivers or whatever was beneficial, and that's my guy. I wanted to go with Malcolm Floyd, but he didn't do as much as my boy right here.
Yeah,
so.
Forsett had an amazing season. I know Ryan, as a Ravens fan, probably has a special place in his heart for Justin Forsett as well.
Always trust Gary Kubiak running backs.
Yes, yep, good point.
And I met Justin Forsett. Justin Forsett is the nicest guy ever. I've met him. I've never met somebody that's in the athletic field that has been more nice than him. He's like a super nice guy, so I have to pick him.
Nice.
He's small dude too.
He's I was about as tall as he was.
Good stuff.
But I mean, my second year playing fantasy and having him on my bench that I could just like throw in there, I was like, this is it.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's go around the room real quick. Give me your Twitter handle if you want to plug anything again, your website, your podcast, whatever. Kacey, we'll go to you first. Where can we follow you at, and where can we find the podcast?
Okay, I'm at the Kacey Kasem. It's Kacey, if you guys are wondering. I also write for FightingChanceFantasy.com, and I have a podcast with my guy JJ. It's going to be called Fantasy Football JK. It should be coming out in the next week or so. Our first episode we recorded on Memorial Day, and we have a lot of really awesome guests lined up for the first month, and then I'm going to get these guys, these wonderful, lovely men right here to come on too, I'm sure, now that I put them on the spot.
I'm always down.
But yeah, that's where you can find me, and I gave out a pizza tonight to 4,000 followers, so
nice.
That's awesome.
Good stuff. All right, Ryan, what you got, man?
Find me, Ryan Searfoss, at Fantasy FB Connect. You can find me here, GoFor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show. Normally every Tuesday, but sometimes on Wednesdays. I'm going to be putting out some Going for 2 War Room episodes where you come on to talk about one player who you love coming into the season. We're going to be about 5 to 10 minutes on them. Find me at the Dynasty Draft Room. My SEC Power Rankings should be coming out here soon. And then I'm doing an article, top 10 Devy players in the SEC to pick up. Should be out next week. But, yeah.
All right, good
Find
stuff.
more stuff for here as well.
Good stuff. All right, as always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Next week's show, I believe, is the Nostra Dumbass show. It's one of our more popular shows. Shane comes on, and he's just he's a jinx. Let's just put it that way. He's terrible at predicting fancy football stuff, so we're going to have him come on. And be on the lookout, too, for my charity contest. I'm putting it together here pretty quickly. I'll be getting some invites here. It's for DraftKings for week 1. And we're donating. It'll go to my GoFundMe account, and then once we get all the money pulled up, then I'll donate it also to Scott Fish's charity. So be on the lookout for that as well. With that said, for Kacey, for Ryan, I'm Jeff. That's a wrap.